Hearthstone Grandmasters Week 2, day number 2 is about to begin. Today is August 31st, 2019. We are live. And on this day in history, a very sad thing happened years ago. Princess Diana had her car crash and died. And I remember that because my mother was weeping a lot, and I thought it was because she saw my report card. But it turns out that it was a very tragic event that happened overseas. May she rest in peace.
I am kind of liking these this day in history.
Yeah, you want it to be a more regular thing?
I think it should be a regular thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, give a reason for some of the viewers to tune in at the very beginning, outside, of course, of our inane and hilarious and very witty banter back and forth.
Education.
Yes, education, which is sorely lacking in the Americas region for several reasons, but we'll go into that in just a second. For now, let's go ahead and
Will we?
Oh, yes, we will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that conversation.
Yes, because we have two players who are underperforming in their own respect. Galan and Strifecro. Galan looking for his first win, which is, of course, not reflective of his skill. Galan is a top-level player in the region. I'd argue immediately that he's in the top 8 of the 16, so he would say top half. In terms of just raw technical ability of the Grandmasters. Strifecro yesterday had a very poor showing, and he even tweeted that he felt like he played poorly.
Yep.
He talked about his steep schedule. Coming back, it's kind of been a little bit messed up from Korea. You can see that it's a little bit reflective of even his background. You know, he's got his husband pillow kind of falling off the side there. It's a little good representation of his mental space, because yesterday, his series where he was playing against ETC looks sloppy, to say the least, TJ.
Yeah, we criticized him during the series. There was a couple plays that specifically stood out to me that I did not like at all, and cost him at least one game just from the things that we noticed. And of course, players, when they go back and watch their own series, are going to notice things as well, small things that they could have done differently. So looking forward to this series, though. In game number 1, Galan's going to be on the Druid. I like his version of Druid. I'm not sold on the power of the wild, but I do think that Chef Nomi is a good inclusion to these decks because it gives you longevity in a lot of matchups that you can tend to run out of threats. Strifecro will be playing the Priest, so I think advantage Strifecro in this game number 1, even with the extra arms nerf. I still think that Druid, because they make these massive minions relatively early on in the game, can snowball against Druid, who really doesn't have much going on in the early game. Of course, they're incentivized with the quest to not spend their mana, and they want to get that quest completed as soon as possible. So if Strifecro has some time to build up this big minion and slap a couple health buffs, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, Galan's going to fall over. Naturalize is gone. It is in the graveyard of Hearthstone cards.
No, it is sent to the farm where it can enjoy a really happy eternal life. And honestly, you could argue that if I'm a naturalized gamer, I'd be happier than watching it fall from grace, similar to Innervate or Wild Growth or Nourish, where you feel like, huh, this card feels a little weird if you're used to playing it for years in its current form.
You'd prefer that it goes to the farm forever?
Yes, I actually am a huge advocate for that. I'd rather unnerf cards and send them to the Hall of Fame, and then have different cards be reprinted for, you know, future expansions and whatnot. Of course, budget players on their wallet would probably disagree because they want to be able to play with certain cards that feel like it's pretty iconic. But I'd rather Innervate go to 2 mana and go to Wild. I'd rather Wild Growth go to 2 mana and go back to Wild.
Yeah.
And then print other things.
Innervate goes back to 2 mana gain, goes to Wild, and then they print a new card called Innovate in its current standard state.
Counterfeit Innervate. And it gives you +1 mana for this turn only. Strifecro with the classic counterfeit Innervate into Injured Blade Master and Circle of Healing.
Yeah. And you're already seeing on turn 3 the struggles for Galan here. He needs to play the quest, but also wants to dig, and his follow-up's not good, and he's just hoping that Strifecro has a handful of support spells and nothing that can get this Injured Blade Master rolling, but Power Word Shield is not that.
TJ, we missed the most obvious one. Countervate.
Thumbs down.
Strifecro did not get attacked by the hero power because of the threat of Light Warden hero power and just being able to capitalize off of heal effects like that. So a nice little heads-up play there by Galan. I also like that he set up his backdrop this week. It's a new week, it's a new me. Some players said, you know what? Don't really want the backdrop. I want all of my dirty laundry, quite literally, to be seen by the world.
Well, there was a rule change in Season 2 where players no longer are required to have the backdrop.
Right.
As long as they don't have, you know, any unsavory items in their background. And Galan was actually one of the few players who requested a backdrop. He did not receive a backdrop because he came in Season 2 to replace Dog, who opted to leave Grandmasters, and we didn't send him a backdrop because we're like, well, none are required, and he reached out and said, I would like one. So, wants to have that nice, clean, no distraction, blue
Good job,
backdrop.
Good job.
Well done.
Yeah, and
Model citizen.
it shows that he's taking the league very seriously. Galan's been a pretty good friend of mine for a while, and we've attended tournaments, not even just Hearthstone tournaments, we just go and hang out at other events a lot together. And getting to know him has been a wonderful pleasure of just being able to understand the mentality of pro players, but also the mentality of an aspiring player. Galan's been on the cusp for a long time. I remember casting him in the HCT playoffs back when we had people like Robert Wing casting, if you remember back in the day, and Frank Lepore and a few other people. They were joining us for broadcast. Galan was a player playing Combo Warrior with like Raging Organs and whatnot.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, wow, this guy's eyebrows are ridiculous. They're awesome. I want my eyebrows to look like that. And then second's like, wow, he's not that great at Hearthstone. And then Galan, you know, admittedly, we weren't also that great. And Galan messaged me, he's like, yeah, I misplayed a lot in that series. I know I'm going off on a little tangent here. There's a lot of board tension going on, so I'll wrap this up.
That's what Grandmasters is all about, Dan.
Galan got really good at Hearthstone. He said that playoffs motivated him like crazy to get much better.
Yep.
And now, fast forward to 3.5 years later, this guy is in the Premier League of Hearthstone competition after grinding it and being able to do really well at the Match Tour Vegas. All of his friends are happy for him, and so are we.
Yes. Well said. But yes, there's a little bit of board tension developing here, and like this play from Galan, this is a deviation from as fast as possible quest completion, just because he can't afford to take additional damage from that Light Warden. And I agree with this play. Next turn, he can roll into Nourish, which of course would give him that extra voting 2 mana. But there is the thing where if he saves it for the quest, then he gets the card draw. But I don't know if he has the option to not go for quest completion for another turn. And it doesn't look like there's going to be a great target for Swipe next turn, which is the only card that really makes much sense playing in his hand that doesn't fill up all of his mana.
Yeah, if Galan did not kill that Light Warden and instead prioritized finish the quest, Galan might have died, because with 4 minions on the board and Holy Ripple and Circle of Healing, that's 8 damage per card.
Yeah.
On top of the heal to your own face. So Strifecro had 12 power because he had 2 injured Blade Masters, a Light Warden, and a Wild Pyromancer. +8/+8, that's 28. That's very close to lethal, if not already lethal, based off of our calculations.
Well, he likely would have killed the injured Blade Master anyway and just floated the 2 1 mana with the Swipe, but
Still
it would have been pretty much unrecoverable damage because he wouldn't have time at that point to get everything he needed out of his hand. And
so now a second swipe opportunity here for Galan. You know, the fact that he does not finish the quest make a lot of these cards much weaker. Nourish and Hidden Oasis. I'm wondering if Galan, in the back of his mind, is thinking about just swiping and passing, or perhaps he's willing to tank this damage. I don't think you want to risk your opponent just pushing you out of the game.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. If Triproof draws Interfire, this game's over.
Yeah. And that's, you can see why Priest is considered favored in this matchup, because The Druid just doesn't really do much for the first few turns, and if you miss removal on the first minion, which he didn't have an option to because Strifecro wisely coined out the Injured Blade Master with Circle of Healing, then that minion is going to stick pretty much forever. And there's extra arms.
I mean, it's still very good in this spot.
Yeah.
Now, I think for Strifecro, how does he utilize extra arms in this position? Is it buff the Injured Blade Master and just make it this unstoppable force? Do you spread it out?
I think buffing the Injured Blade Master makes sense. If you can only play one copy this turn. So if you spread it out, no matter what you do, you're weak to Oasis Surger. So let's say you put extra arms on the Neferset Ritualist. Oasis Surger comes down and kills the Injured Blade Master. And if you extra arms the Neferset and Divine Spirit the Injured Blade Master, then Oasis Surger gets value trades over the Ritualist and the Northshire Cleric. That does give you a Inner Fire out for lethal, but you might as well just protect this from what you consider the worst possible scenario from your opponent, and that's why just going all in on 1 minute. Now Oasis Surger doesn't even touch this thing.
Oh my goodness. Wait, hold on. Do we want to play Nourish with this?
Power takes
He may want to play Fluke, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. I like that.
Yeah, because this gives him the full-sized Lodi.
Yep, I like it. I mean, I just wanted to think about it for half a second, you know, because you think about the draws into Defender, but the double Lodi is great.
That draw was so sick.
That was crucial.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the double War Druid Lodi has saved my butt a handful of times. TJ, right before I stepped onto this broadcast, I lost a bajillion ladder games in a row in the top 200, and I'm very upset. But I did win 1 game in the midst of my incredible record-setting losing streak. And it was because I played double War Druid Lodi against a Mech Paladin that bailed me out of the situation, because it was just a ridiculous Galvanizer that got to like 11, 16 head Blessing of Wisdom and all the Magnetize on it. But because I drew 1 War Druid Lodi, stopped the momentum, my opponent couldn't do anything. And I think that's fairly important given that Druid does struggle with that removal. But at this point, the recovery process for decks like this, they're very much all in on a couple minions.
Yeah, this is true.
quickly.
And War Druid Lodi, I think, at the beginning of the expansion release, when players were debating on inclusions for Quest Druid, War Druid Lodi was actually being debated on as an inclusion. And people were undervaluing a couple aspects of it, notably the spell damage, because all of the choose one spells for Druid, and even the one not choose one spell that you play in the deck, which is Swipe, all double up from spell damage. And the stealth is the second one. A lot of players you'll see, we saw yesterday, you'll see a lot today. If they don't need to kill a minion right away, like Galan did there, they'll just play their War Druid Lodi and leave it stealth. And reap the benefits of having that spell damage on board turn after turn. So definitely something that's been something that I've liked to see.
I just heal Lodi itself. Taunt will protect you, but you don't have that many good minions on the board if you lose the War Druid Lodi. Strifecro's in trouble. He concedes. Galan with the big come from behind victory with the War Druid Lodi pickup. Yep, followed by the Full-Bloodedness Flute. The Quest Druid gets the win.
Yeah, and honestly, that didn't single-handedly come down to the War Druid Lodi. Obviously, that was a big swing in the game, but just the deviation on not completing the quest. Galan recognizing that Light Warden was too much of a threat, innervating out the hero power, delaying it by 1 turn, was pretty much what allowed Galan to have the time to get that War Druid online. So definitely well played, and that's kind of the all-in nature of Priest shown in a nutshell there.
All right, well, with that, that's just our first game. We're going to take our second break here. When we come back, we're going to tune in back to Galan versus Strifecro. Stay tuned.
My name is Sam Braithwaite, and I'm the Senior Global Franchise Lead for Hearthstone Esports. This event was especially cool because it takes place right after the brand new expansion Rise of Shadows. Historically in Hearthstone Esports, we do our big events like this towards the end of an expansion cycle, but we really wanted to shake things up and really showcase that not only is the world champion the person who can pilot the best decks, but also the person who, when presented with a brand new game, can put together the best decks leading into the world championship. Cheers to you guys, the sold out crowd here for the HCT 2019 World Championship.
Welcome back to 2019 HCT World Championship.
We've had a lot of fun games, and we're looking forward to the grand finals. Showdown. Viper versus Hunter Ace. Only one can be the champion. Oh, come on!
Match be dead.
Wacko pick a Vix coming out from Hunter Ace.
It's now or never. Archvillain reform.
Okay! In a completely solved game, Hunter Ace finds a way to maximize his chances. It's been a wonderful journey throughout the past few years of the Hearthstone Championship Tour, where stars were made and dreams came true.
Hello, my name is Kong Shu. My handle is Strifecro. I think my original name was just like Strife. I think I just stole it from someone else that I saw online at the time when I was like 10. One of my favorite esports memory, it was like a dream hack. I ended up having like this like epic, like I don't even know how long this game against Glinto eventually beat me in that game, but I kind of brought the mage to the tournament, not as like, say I thought it was like the best thing ever, but because I just wanted to like show people I could destroy everyone with my kind of like troll deck. The thing I'm most looking forward to in Grandmasters is kind of the dynamic, because I've never really had this like league kind of dynamic in the past. You have 2 matchups a week, and you can kind of like target them. You know, you can start making spreadsheets, see what they play, see what decks are good against the decks that they play. You can even kind of play some mind games like that. I think my play is unique in the sense that I'm very like technical. I don't play a lot on intuition as much. Like I really like to have my thoughts and game plans planned out and go from there. My personal goals this year is kind of to get back into Hearthstone. Because I took such a long break, I feel like I'm finally refreshed and ready to go. So that's one thing I'm just looking forward to get like that motivation back.
Hearthstone Grandmasters Super Saturday is just getting underway, so hope y'all are enjoying it back at home, having your favorite snacks, watching your favorite casters, doing your favorite game.
Y'all.
Chilling under some blankets, which I could use right now. It's very cold in our studio, TJ.
It's not as cold as it was yesterday. Yesterday, if I had to take a wild guess, I would say it was like roughly 55 to 58 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And I was wearing shorts and a rolled up long sleeve button up.
Oh yeah, your nipples were fully erect.
Oh yes, they were excruciatingly erect. But
that's right.
we got some Hearthstone on our hands. Galan going to be playing Warrior this game, and Strifecro on the Priest once again. So Galan getting it favorable on his side this game, but he is playing the full Bomb Warrior, which does sacrifice some additional removal and just overall control tools in order to make room for Augmented Elic, Clockwork Goblin, and Wrench Caliber, and Blastmaster Boom. It just kind of is slightly more inconsistent. I think the big thing that is that it's missing is Plague of Wrath, which sometimes can be a necessary removal tool against priests. Just something that you have that can act as a backup for Brawl or for Warpath in some cases. So maybe Strifecro has a little bit of life, but I would still give this as a favorite over to Galan.
Yeah, I would say that it heavily depends on the removal options for the Warrior as well. No Plague is no good, TJ. I know Plague of Wrath tends to be more of a control warrior tool, but Admirable and I were talking yesterday. For those of you who don't know, me and Admirable are now roommates. That's right, domestic partners, if you will.
Temporarily.
How dare you?
I mean, it's just a fact. As the person who booked your living arrangements, I know that it will end.
You don't know? Anyways, Love won again. And Admiral and I are now intimately sharing an apartment together. And last night was great. We had a great room bonding experience. Watched Archer, tried to watch Seinfeld. It was not on yet. And by the time it would be on, Admiral had to go to sleep. So I tucked him in. But before we did that, we talked about Brawl versus Plague of Wrath for a good 5-10 minutes. And I'm pretty convinced. I feel like Warriors are holding Brawls way too much versus, and also, they're trying to get ahead on board. They're playing things like Attorney Rover and Flunky. What are you going to do with Brawls when you're ahead on board? You're just going to hold it. You don't want to ditch the entire work that you've set up with Clockwork Goblins and whatnot.
Yep.
Plague of Wrath makes a lot more sense given that it's a nuclear option, and more importantly, it synergizes with other cards in your deck that's like Warpath and whatnot. That gives it more value because Warpath's another card that you can struggle to use as Warrior if you're ahead on board. And I just liked a lot of the logic that was going out there. So I think that if you do end up putting Brawls in your deck, maybe you want to sub one out. Try a little Plague of Wrath.
Or, better yet, both. So it looks like Strifecro here going to go with a very efficient on-board play. I like this play because Silence, in this matchup, you need to kind of snowball early boards. If you let it get to the late game, chances are you're not going to be able to utilize Silence in order to win the game because 2 Morden, the way it works, you silence one, what do you do with the other? You usually have 1 big minion. Now that can change, as we saw in the Race vs. Bloody Face series yesterday, where Race was digging for Plague of Wrath for what seemed like the entirety of the game, and Bloody Face won with an injured Blade Master that he stuck on turn 5.
Precisely.
That ended up getting 33 attack and killed countless numbers of Frightened Flunkies. So I like this on-board play from Strifecro. It makes things awkward for Galan because he can't kill the Northshire Cleric without trading in both of his minions, which leaves the Light Warden up, which is the most threatening minion. And I like this deviation from Galan. You see a 3-mana card, that's green, and with 3 mana in play, but he's going to go with Armor Up and Towncrier to make sure that he can guarantee Restless Mummy can come out on the next turn.
Right, this is really smart. Sees Ziliax in the hand, guaranteed to draw the Restless Mummy. And Galan says, you know what, I am going to take some damage, but I'm Warrior. And I have Taunts in the hand. And I have Armageddon 2 Morden Ziliax, the holy triumvirate of cheat. Because taunting is cheating, as many people know in Hearthstone. And so if you're able to guarantee that curve into Armageddon Ziliax 2 Morden, you will recover, even if you take 20 damage from this Light Warden, which is not even out of this realm of possibility. If Strifecro had a Pyromancer and Power Word Shield and Circle of Healing, that it would be around that much damage. But Strifecro does not. So instead, take it a little bit slower.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Galan's curve here. He goes Restless Mummy into Ziliax, into Armageddon, into something. It would have been Dr. Boom a week ago, but now it's going to be something to fill the gap, and then a huge Tomb Morden. So he's got the curve. Of course, things can change depending on what Strifecro does with his turns. But the pieces are there for Galan to be able to stifle this pressure from Strifecro.
No tomb can hold me.
I think Restless Mummy was the card that had the single highest benefit to a class in expansion.
Yeah, Restless Mummy is a nutty card.
Oh, this.
Oh, wow. Galan not killing the Light Warden. What do you think about this, TJ?
I am unsure about this. He wants to deny the card draw, but he could have done the same thing, but killed the Light Warden first, and then killed the Acolyte of Pain. And it would have been a Town Crier on board versus a Nephroset Ritualist, which, I mean, Nephroset Ritualist base health is 3. You're not too worried about that many of Ziliax to follow it up. I honestly don't know. I'm trying to work out what his plan is here. This is the most like efficient play on board because now this Restless Mummy has the potential to 3 for 1 instead of 2 for 1. But I don't know if playing for the maximum amount of value in this matchup is the right way to play it. Because eventually the priest just runs out of stuff and you snowball the game.
Well, I think what Galan wants to do with this play, which is fairly clever, is let Strifecro extend more onto the board and then invest his resources into pumping the Light Warden, right? Because if you look at what's happening right now, Strifecro is playing fairly aggressive onto the board to try and make the Light Warden better. And Galan can accept this damage and then play Ziliax to recover its position. So that Strifecro uses a lot of his spells like Circle of Healing, like a Power Word Shield. In this case, Strifecro used a Holy Ripple. And so utilizing Ziliax on curve to gain life and after Strifecro had utilized his resources is probably what he was going for.
Speak to me.
My argument is just that he could have done the same thing, but taken less damage.
Well, the only caveat to all of this is that Galan has Armageddon. And then Galan also had other minions to play on the curve. He could have played like Snipstab or Clockwork Goblin.
That's true.
However, I think all of that might have been negated by the fact that if Galan might think, if I can get to Dr. Boom Mad Genius, all my mechs become insane because Galan has 4 mechs and Dr. Boom. In fact, outside of Ziliax, these are usually the only mechs in the deck, along with Dynamatic.
Yeah.
So Galan would have all of the cards necessary.
Yeah, no, this is very true. And honestly, with the silence used from Strifecro early on to try and gain board, Galan knows that outside of Strifecro, Divine Spirit, plus another health buff, plus Inner Fire, this Armageddon is sticking for a turn, which means that that Tomb Warden will grow ever stronger.
So Strifecro might be calculating the Psychopomp ops. He has 1 Psychopomp in the pool, 2 Ritualists, a Cleric, and a Light Warden.
Pretty mediocre.
So that's 1 out of 5 for it to hit the Northshire Cleric. Hits the 2 Ritualists, that's pretty poor. If it hits the Psychopomp, that's pretty poor. Hits the Light Warden's okay. So 1 great option, 1 meh option, and 3 poor options. I think Strifecro, he goes for an opportunity to try and win. And this is a bad matchup, so I think for Strifecro, he feels like he needs to get fortunate to win. But things are about to get real ugly here. Galan just picked up another taunt minion.
Yeah, another taunt minion, another buff from our Armageddon, but I don't even know if that's on his mind. I think he just wants to build the biggest board possible. Yeah, it's Clockwork Goblin plus Omega Devastator. At this point, I don't think he's going to have a higher % chance to win by buffing more taunt minions, because Frightened Punk is going to get buffed anyway. So just making sure that every single turn you play the most powerful thing possible is going to give you the best chance to win in the long term. That Tomb Warden is now sitting at a 710.
In the light's name.
Yeah, it should be 710. It's got 2 Armageddon buffs. Circle of Healing after he's killed off the Armageddon contemplating if he wants to draw this extra card right now. I think he does. Powered Shield.
Okay.
Gives an opportunity for the Light Warden to maybe stay alive.
Could Powered Shield Divine Spirit the Light Warden, but that second Divine Spirit is such a crucial resource because unless he's confident that this Light Warden is going to keep sticking, that's really his only way to win the game.
Yeah, I think he might feel. Oh my goodness. Nope. It's just not the right time.
Yeah.
Strifecro's just going to pass it back to Galan, who draws the Brawl. Brawl in this spot has a chance of really backfiring here for Galan. So I think his priority is the Tomb Warden.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 7/10s for 8 mana with taunt. So he can just take some value trades here and say go.
The Pyromancer extra arms with the Acolyte on board and Circle of Healing. I mean, that's a lot of cards. That's at least 3 cards that Strifecro can draw without having committed Divine Spirit, with the upside of a lot more.
Yep.
Like to play with fire.
I think he wants to use extra arms on the Acolyte. Second pair of extra arms. I don't think we need that many arms.
No. I think we already had enough arms.
Well, how do you feel about using the second Circle of Healing in this spot here?
You would have to use it now, so you're more efficient with your Wild Pyromancer damage.
Must consider.
It's basically just a card draw, because the Tomb Wardens would be the same, and the health. I guess the health on his Acolyte, the maximum health on his Acolyte right now is actually.
Quickly.
It's 6 with the Divine Spirit, 8 with the Powered Shield, and 10 with the extra arms.
So it would be just more efficient in order to buff the Acolyte of Pain back up, but it's kind of just an awkward spot now. I don't know if he's kind of flying by the seat of his pants there for that turn, felt like.
Yeah, and he didn't even get the extra draw with the Acolyte of Pain. That being said, it's still a reasonable board state here for Strifecro, and that Inner Fire draw is very nice pickup. Galan has the opportunity once again to try and restrict the board state by trading and isolating the Acolyte. The Snip Snap is very good to help give magnetic abilities and then kill off his Acolyte.
Yeah, Galan can. There's 1 copy of Silence in the deck for Strifecro, which used on turn 2.
That's the one thing I think I would have liked Strifecro to at least drawn a card, given that magnetic is a possibility.
You mean the attack with the Acolyte? So Circle of Healing first, then an attack with the Acolyte? Yeah.
Because then otherwise, what's the point of Circle of Healing? To draw 1 card?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that great to use it that in. I think you might... If you're going to use it to draw 1 card, I think you might want to take your chances of hoping Northshire Cleric comes off the top.
Yep. And Strifecro is kind of running out of resource here. He has a lot of stuff, but his ability to get on the board in a big way in a single turn is limited. He's used both Circle of Healings and both Neferset Ritualists, which means that this injured Tol'Vir and injured Blademaster combo is not really that threatening from Galan's perspective, because he can't heal them back up to full. He has to rely on Powered Shield and extra arms and Divine Spirit in order to get them out of range of some removal.
I wonder.
Galan is even though he has 3 cards left, he's not strapped for resource. He has Brawl in Emergencies, he has Dr. Boom Mad Genius, and Strifecro had a relatively dead turn. He has Fright and Flunky to keep that train going. That is a 4/4 right now. So also ability to fight by itself in addition to getting that taunt minion back. So his goal here is to play 3 minions to try and make sure that 1 sticks. That injured Blademaster invested the Powered Shield in. That's his last hope. That thing needs to win the game.
Yep. I think Strifecro is hoping that Galan's low on resources, but Galan does have the Dr. Boom Mad Genius to start generating them. And I like playing it here. It is fairly expensive, so having that hero power access in the very immediate is not going to be possible here for Galan, but it's not like he picked up a great one anyways. Had he picked up a Zap, I think it would have been highly impactful.
Using the Eternium Rover here to just gain the 2 extra armor. There's the only bomb in the deck. From the Clockwork Goblin. Okay.
I mean, that's okay. It's just that Strifecro doesn't have anything to combo with it right now. The only minions remaining in this deck are Wild Pyromancer and the Northshire Cleric and the Acolyte.
Yikes.
And the second Inner Fire. Those are the remaining cards in this deck. You know, I'm also, I gotta be very honest, I'm not a huge fan of Holy Ripple. I think that it is very good against like 2 matchups, and that's Shaman and Warlock.
Murloc Paladin.
Okay, yeah, that's fair, right?
I see a dark future.
And I think that the Priest wants to play very proactively, and Holy Ripple tends to be a pretty awkward card. That being said, it ends up being pretty good in this spot.
Yep. I mean, Galan currently doesn't have a way outside of Brawl to deal with this High Priest event, but he knows that this is effectively the last threat that he has to deal with.
Right.
So even like Microbot's Brawl to give himself a 6 out of 7 chance.
Wow.
So this is, Strifecro has been all in for some time, and I can imagine we'll see a Brawl here. He could buy, actually, he could just buy time.
Yeah,
he could just Frighten Flunky.
And ×2. Like, Brawl could be a last-ditch effort. Frighten Flunky can put taunts in the way.
But this will be the most minions that he'll ever be able to have in play, because he has Microbots this turn. He's not guaranteed Microbots next turn. So let's say he plays Frighten Flunky, gets mediocre options. Strifecro trades into the Flunky Holy Ripples, which he knows is left in the deck. And this Ahmet sticks, and then his chances with Brawl become less and less.
This place is scary.
That's my thinking behind it.
Heroic Innkeeper. There's 4 other minions on the board.
Wow.
Oh, I love that
Plus 8, that's 12/12. Going for maximum Brawl potential.
Yeah.
Strifecro has a 12.5% chance to win this 1 out of 8. And there's just very low chance Strifecro closes out. And now with that, looks like this is locked up. Strifecro picks up Acolyte of Pain. He can try again, but with 2 Divine Spirits used.
Yeah, there's actually, I don't think, a mathematic possibility for Strifecro to win this game.
You have best.
That's it.
Yeah.
Galan gets his first win in Grandmasters. The deck that Strifecro protected, Combo Priest, ends up being the downfall. And with that, Galan is our winner for our first match on Super Saturday. TJ, very quickly, I want to talk about some of the pick and ban process here. Strifecro actually has a unique lineup in that no one else in Grandmasters this week brought the combination of his 4 decks: Control Warrior, Quest Druid, Quest Shaman, and Combo Priest. People who brought Combo Priest usually brought Zoo Warlock. Strifecro also banned very similarly in his previous matchup, which was Protect Combo Priest and ban Zoo Warlock. And he lost both of his matches today. So is it the lineup? Is it his pick and ban?
I think the lineup is just really similar because you want something in your deck, in your lineup to be Druid. And Zoo Warlock and Priest both kind of fit that bill. I think players didn't have time to practice new lists of Priests, and that's why you see some players brought Zoo instead.
Okay.
But I think it serves the same purpose, right, in the grand scheme of a lineup.
Sure. Let's go ahead and check in with Galan, who got his first win there. Galan, you there?
Hey, buddy, can you hear me?
Wow.
Oh.
Call me buddy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Am I your buddy, too?
I was talking to TJ, Dan. So get out of the way.
Oh, yes, I can hear you, Galan. I can hear you.
All right. Well, I'll let your buddy do this interview. I'm out.
Galan, how's it feel to pick up your first win of Grandmasters?
A little bit of a relief. Starting 0-2 in a format where, like, it's my first time, I'm the only person that got in Season 2 was a little bit disheartening. I thought I played pretty well last week. Like, not amazing, but pretty well. And I don't think the 0-2 score really reflected it. But I'm not discouraged, obviously. Like, getting a win here kind of makes it a lot easier, I guess. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely know what you mean. And since this is the first time we're getting a chance to talk to you since you've been in Grandmasters effectively, tell me about some of your feelings going into the season. Did you feel a lot of pressure on your shoulders? Did you feel like this was going to be easier or harder than it was? Talk to me about some of your feelings.
I mean, I played with these guys a lot. Like everyone in my region, you know, I've had games against. Strifecro I played against in HCT Oakland last year. Purple, my next opponent, is a guy that I've talked to for literally years at this point. He's been my only practice partner. So in terms of like stress about playing good players, I'm not worried about it. In terms of stress of just wanting to do well, yeah, a little bit.
All right, well, a little bit about your lineup. A lot of players seem to settle on kind of the same thing with the Zoo Warlock being there, at least for Americas. What's with the Zoo that makes it a popular choice for a lot of players here? And why do you think players in other regions opted to, like Europe, for example, not go with the Zoo Warlock? What do you think is kind of the difference in thinking there?
I'm not gonna lie. I used a lot of my goodwill this week with like a lot of other grandmasters. I did a lot of testing. I couldn't really find a list that I wanted, so I had to reach out and ask other people for their advice. Orange, Amnesiac, especially, both helped me a lot. So if you want to ask them about it, they'll probably give you a better answer.
Okay. This is kind of a conversation that Dan and I have been having over the course of yesterday and a little bit in the morning today. Dan is staring at me very angrily right now, but what do you think is the current best deck in the metagame? Because I'm pretty sure everybody we've talked to has given us a different answer.
Current best deck in the metagame, I would probably say Priest.
Yes. Blomsamdi Priest, right?
Exactly, yeah. That is rank 1 legend. It's insane.
Yeah. Rank 1 legend, Blomsamdi
No
Priest.
sarcasm.
Dan, do you agree? Okay. Thanks very much, Dan. Dan, any last questions for Galan before we let him go? No? All right. Well, Galan, congratulations on the win. Thanks for joining us for the interview, and good luck in your next match.
See you, buddy, and see a friend. Dan, I was going to call you a friend.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There we go. He's alive again.
I
All right.
see so many nice